Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Dotson-Kelly. I am a high school math teacher. This video is going to teach you the Quotient of Powers rule. If you've already watched my Product of Powers rule, this is pretty much the opposite version of that. As you might remember, the word product means the value after you multiply two things. Quotient is the value after you divide two things. So what does this mean? Well, let's see an example. 2 to the 7th power divided by 2 to the 4th power. And this fraction is going to be dividing the same base with different powers. If you look back at my previous video on the definition of exponents, we now know that 2 to the 7th power means that I am multiplying 7 2's together. And I'm dividing that by 4 2's. We can go through this and we can find that when you divide a number by itself, it equals 1. So looking at this using my bases, and I have 7 2's and 4 2's. And looking at this here, I can now start doing some cross-canceling, or more likely, I am dividing to 1. So I have here 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And what am I left with? I am left with 3 2's. So this equals 2 to the 3rd power. But doing this is a lot of work. So how can we simplify this without going through all that work? So the way I teach this in my classroom is I point out to my students that the numbers I'm working with are here in the non-yellow highlighters. I have a green highlighter on the 7, a pink highlighter on the 4, and the blue highlighter on the 3. So we started with 7 and 4 and we ended with a 3. The 2, the base, stayed the same. So if we start with 7 and 4 and we end with 3, what mathematical operation will give me a result of 3? And the answer to that is subtraction. And that's all this is. You end up subtracting to get that final result of 3. And so a way of writing this more mathematically appropriately would be like this. 2 to the 7th divided by 2 to the 4th is equal to 2 to the 7 minus 4 power, which is equal to 2 to the 3rd power. This works out, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the bases remain the same. If you have the same base being divided, we can subtract them. So really quickly, I'm going to do a quick compare and contrast between the product and the quotient. So the product versus the quotient rule. The product is when you multiply, so 2 to the 3rd times 2 to the 5th gave me 2 to the 8th power. I added the exponents. And over here, if I have such as 2 to the 7th divided by 2 to the 4th, this gives me 2 to the 3rd power. Here I subtracted the exponents. There's many ways we can explain this using the negative exponent rules in conjunction to the product of powers rule, or we can just look at this as we are cross-canceling to ones. So there are 4 2's and 7 2's. 4 of these 2's get canceled out down here, leaving me with 3 2's. So the appropriate definition for the quotient of powers rule is this. If I have a to the mth power divided by a to the nth power, this will equal a to the m minus n. And then whatever the result is of this difference will tell me whether or not my result is going to be in the numerator or the denominator. If m minus n is negative, then I'm going to end up with a value in my denominator. If m minus n is positive, I'm going to end up with a value in my numerator. Let me go and show you one example where I end up with a negative and I have to use my negative exponent property rule to give me my final answer. So 5 to the 3rd power divided by 5 to the 8th power. I can apply my rule that I just learned, which is I'm going to take my numerator exponent and subtract my denominator exponent. It's 5 to the 3 minus 8, which is 5 to the negative 5th power. But as we learned from a previous video, something called the negative exponent property, this will then equal 1 divided by 5 to the 5th power. This would be my final answer. Thank you for watching my video. I hope this helps. Stay healthy, stay safe, and hope to see you next time.